Great. And I assume, Claire, I can see Claire's head shaking yes or no. I can assume everybody sees a little website right here that says iModule Supports for Volunteers. Great. That is a portal site that we have created to try to help support our volunteers in using both email and the web content modules that are offered. I wanted to take a split second to go through this because in a perfect world, this is where you go for your first try to answer any questions you might have. This is a living dynamic document, so I would always check back in here. Going from the right to left, this is our support page, how you log in, a system status. If you're trying to do something and you can't get connected to iModules, if you click on this button, it will tell you if the product is up or down for maintenance or anything along that lines. Right here where it says non-critical issues, in a perfect world, we'd love you to work with your engagement officers and they can work with us. If some reason you can't get through, you can always click on this little link and that will create a ticket in my system. And I hopefully will be able to get back to you within a business day.
Ron, it appears you're not on that page. You're on the Mid-Hudson Alumni Association.
Oh, I'm on the wrong screen. There we go.
Thank you.
Wrong screen. So this is the iModule support site. Again, it's a living document. Basic login information. System status is right here. And this is the link where if you want to, this will if you click on this link, it will send me an email and you can put in any questions you might have. And hey, Claire, is the speed going okay or is there a little bit of a delay?
No, the speed is fine.
Okay, great. Over here, underneath calendars I will try to put anytime we're having events and our contact information for any events. The next section is training material. There are two sections of training. There's training material that iModules provides, and then there's the training material that we provide. You can feel free to go watch. iModules presents a lot of little 20-minute videos, and there's text-based searching. Bear in mind that the information from iModules is rather generic, so mine is a little bit more focused on what we have. This is a section if you're going to be dealing with the websites, which you would go through to manage websites. And the section that says email has more content about emails, how you build emails. I tend to put a lot of things like, say, PDFs on there so that you can open up. And it'll either be a Word document or a PDF so you can open up and read the documents and you can save them, all right? So moving forward, I'm going to collapse this guy. Moving forward, when you log in to generate an email, this should be the basic site you see. This is an iModule site. And you would see, I have a little bit more because I have a lot of security, but you would see something that would look like this, all right? And so once you log in, and then you would start to click on your email home, and that's the spot where you're going to be generating email. So what I wanted to give is a little bit of background on this before we generate emails is that classes and clubs live in their own little tiny sub-community. In iModules for Cornell University as a whole, we have about 750,000 alumni records maintained. And we have about 160,000 mailable email addresses. In your little sub-communities, whether it's a class or a club, you only have access to those individuals. So the good news is that you don't have to worry about sending an email out to 150,000. It's only going to be people within your community. The next part is emails as a whole should be you really want to think about these as part of a strategy. Your engagement officers can work with you to help understand emailing, for some information to help you understand thoughts and way you can do things that are most efficient. Because one thing I can tell you is that people do opt out. Everybody who gets an email has the ability to opt out of an email. And what we want to do is we want to be smart about our emailing so that we send important information out to folks, keep them engaged, but we don't send enough emails out where they want to opt out. Now, the good news is that if, for a chance, we at Alumni Affairs and Development send enough emails where we make somebody a bit cranky and they opt out, they can opt out of emails from Cornell, and they don't have to opt out of emails from your classes and clubs. They are independent. You can also opt out of emails from your club and remain on Cornell's mailing list. So you live, even though it's the same data, you live in independent worlds, all right? If anybody had a guess, what I would tell you is that last year alone, Alumni Affairs and Development, not including classes and clubs, sent out 25 million emails. So a lot of emails go out. So again, it is something you want to really think through. Maybe instead of sending 4 emails out, you send out a summary email. You know, you'll know your folks. So you know, it's a powerful tool. Use it with as good citizens of the email community. So right now we're going to start, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually generate an email. This is going to be, you're always going to go right into here, email, manage emails, email home. And that's going to bring you up a little screen like that. You're always going to see 3 sections. This first section is for work in progress. Right now I'm in the, you should be able to see your class or club right up top here. So we're in Cornell, and then the sub-community. Right now, I'm in the Mid-Hudson Alumni Association's area. They're kind of inactive at this point, so I hijack their emails to use training sessions. So whenever you create an email and you're working on it, you're gonna be in the Save Draft section. Right here is an email that I was working on. Emails are then released before they get sent out, and they live in a release section, which is right down here. And then when they've been sent out, they're gonna go down to the email history section. So any email you send will go from 1 down to 2, down to 3. And I'll show you that guy in a little bit. I'm going to use a couple different sub-communities at times that have different information I want to show. So when we want to create an email, we're always going to click on one-time custom email. That's the only one you need to know. And if we click right there, it's going to bring up this menu. Or not menu, this little menu bar on the left, and this is a little section where you can enter information. You're always going to be going down from the top to the bottom. Each step needs to be completed as we go down, and once we're all the way done through, you'll see that we have an email that has been sent. So the first thing is the checklist is the general. You can put any type of an email you want. It will always, by default, put the date and your name. This is just a way that you can search for your email name, so you can put anything you would like to have in here. It's not seen anywhere except for on the list of all emails sent out. Email description can be put in here. Any kind of a field you like. This is not seen by anybody. Now the first thing you'll notice is that this one had a little red star to it. This one didn't. The red star, that means that it is required. A description is not required. It's good to use. Email category. Right now you'll see 2 categories. Every class and club will have their organization, and then one that says general information. Normally 9 times out of 10 you will be using the name of your club, because the ability, when people opt out, they have the ability to opt out of a type of email. They can sit there and say, I want to opt out of any emails from this club, but I will take emails from this category. In general, the rule of thumb I tell people is that if you're mailing on behalf of your club, you would use that category. Yeah. If you're forwarding on something from Cornell, hypothetically, I could see use general information, but in general, I would use that. Notification email is basically, that is going to be the email that you will use to get alerts about the status of your email. When you're sending it out, it will send an email back to this address saying, I've sent out the email, or I had a problem sending this email. So anytime there's a notification, this is kind of like the administrator's email address. So you can put your email address in here. It does not have to be a cornell.edu address, but if you have the choice of using a Cornell versus a other internet provider, I would probably lean towards using the Cornell address. Again, it's not critical, but it's your choice, whatever you want for notification email. This is the from name. Now, this is when the emails get sent out to folks, it's going to say the email came from, I can either put my name here, or I can put the organization, I can spell. You could put the Cornell Club of Mid-America, the class of 1988. There are different strategies that some people respond better to if they know who it's coming from, the organizationally. If they see an email address or a name of somebody that they don't know, they tend to spam them more quickly. Again, you can work with your engagement officer on strategies there. It's really just as long as there's something there. This will be the email that the email is coming from. So again, I think the more we use cornell.edu addresses, if you know your cornell.edu address, the less likely it is to be identified as a spam, which you can use things. You could put ron.babuca@hotmail.com. My advice is to use Cornell as much as possible, but it's not required. The reply to is that if somebody replies to your email, where it's going to go. Again, the same strategies. If you can use your cornell.edu, and hypothetically you might have that forwarded to another email, that's okay. Subjects. Subjects, it's always going to default to your organization with these little brackets at the end. Those brackets will get sent through. So usually I would just remove them. You probably should, there are a lot of websites out there that discuss subject strategies. You want to make them informative so people understand. Next one down below is the pre-header. Pre-headers is a supporting subject line. So you could have something like club dinner, and then you might have something in the pre-header that says, come see old classmates. This often appears on mobile and on, primarily you often see them on mobile email applications, but it does appear on just about every type of email application. I would use them in conjunctions. So again, what's the subject and how does this line support that one? The next line down is email footers. You have an option of, you can use the provided email marketing footer that will have Cornell branded information on it. That Cornell branded information is actually alumni affairs and development. Or if you choose, you can have just a pure unsubscribe link. This one does include an email unsubscribe link. It's your choice of which one you want to use. My suggestion is try sending an email to yourself or to your friends and see which one do we like better. It's your choice. I would leave these alone. This puts a little hyperlink on top of your website, so you can open up the email as an HTML site. Again, I would leave, basically the rule of thumb I have is that when in doubt, go with the defaults. All right. So now we've completed the email details. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to save and continue to move on. If you weren't quite sure, if you didn't want to continue on, you could just hit the done button down here and it'll pick up where it left off. For each, now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be selecting the template. Every class and club is supplied with one template. It's always going to be mobile ready. You do have the option of picking another layout. You'll notice this basically has 3 sections. This has one on the top, two columns, and then the footer. So this is the header, the footer, and it'll have 2 sections. The ones that we've provided right here, which is class and clubs single action, call to action, that is a template that we have provided to you and that has been verified and vetted by Alumni Affairs and Development and iModules to be mobile friendly in work. Those are supplied and those are constantly updated by Alumni Affairs and Development and by iModules. My suggestion is to always use these 2. There's nothing saying you can't, if you really want to have a 3-column email, it's going to create a new template I would avoid those because we don't guarantee that it may work on every mobile platform. So again, my suggestion is to always use mobile ready regardless. And then if you can, use the template we provide. So now that for this exercise, we're going to pick this guy and we're going to hit save and continue. Now we have gone through to this section where we're going to build content. You've noticed that was check mark because we've completed that one. Right here is gray check mark. The important reason why it's a gray is that once you've picked a template, you can't go back. It's committing you to that template. If you didn't want to use that, if you decided you didn't want to use a template, you're going to need to start over again. So now we're in the section that we build the content. Each section here is called a content block. And you'll see that these three are at the top of every content block. So we've provided you with a header section and a footer section. Because these are templates, we don't put any of your material into it. But I'm going to get into a little bit of a strategy on how to use this. Whenever we want to build the content, we want to think in terms of, I'm going to modify this block, I'm going to modify this block or this block. And what we provided to you as the basics here is that if you're a call to action is something we're going to do. Here's one block where you can tell what is the event that's happening. There's another button where you can provide a link to the event itself. Alumni Affairs and Developments will build events for you in iModules, and we will give you a URL that you can associate with this button so that if you have an event that you want to have people register for, you can describe the event, click a button, and it will take them where they can register for the event. Right now, this model provides, again, a footer, a header, and 2 sections. We can add more content blocks, and I'll go through it in a section. But what I'm going to first talk about is modifying an existing content block. How we modify a content block is to select the pencil. And if you float it over, it'll say edit content. If I float it over here, it will say remove the content. If I select that button, it will remove this block entirely. This will move the content. I can grab this and drag it down below the button if I want to. If I did that, it would go here. It takes a redraw in a second. Oops. It should go up. I have to go down below. But that's how that happens. I can move this one up above if I want to, and now it's moved the button up there. I'll move that one back up top, and now it's dragged that all over there. Sometimes, it's just moving things around a little bit. So you can move things around. You can delete a section. If you're not going to be registering any of your events, you can just get rid of that. So let's say I want to modify this section. I'm going to come over and hit this button, and it will pop up another window. Everybody always wants to go in and start changing and typing. If you notice my cursor's over here, nothing happening while I'm typing. That's because this is a preview, little preview section right there. What I need to do is come up this corner and click. Now I've got the block right here. Now, the section we have provided you is a table. So you've got table, table, table. If I want to get rid of a section, I can just say delete row. But this provided in the template is a table. That's why you see these little sections here. It's kind of like in a sales spreadsheet if you think about it. So right now, I'm going to change the words here. If I want to change words, all I have to do is move my cursor, and I can remove, and I can write Mid-America. Actually, this is Mid-Hudson. Or I could spell right. Or I could still try spelling right. There we go. And so we can grab whole blocks, and this works just like most text editors. Replace the block. All right. So we can do all these kinds of things. Up on the top, you'll see a lot of things that look very familiar. Most editors look the same way. I can grab a section right here, and I can indent it. I can make it underline. I can make it aligned in the center. So a lot of this should look very familiar. I can put numbers in here, add numbers. I can add bullets. So the good thing to do is kind of, when you're building your emails, just kind of walk along here and see what happens. So now, like, say hypothetically, if I've made a change, all I need to do is save. Oh, right down here it says HTML. And I'm going to come back to this in a second. I just want to quickly walk through this process. Right here it says HTML. Avoid this like the plague. Please do not change your own HTML. Once you start changing your HTML, and we don't stop you from changing it, but once you change the HTML, you may get into an area where we can't really support you too well. So this is kind of going out on your own, and we might be, if you have a problem, we might be able to fix it, or we might not be able to. So if possible, stay in the design area. So now we're going to save the email, or save the version. Now it comes back to a preview. If I like the way that looked in the preview window, I can sit there and say save and load content. Otherwise, I can just go back up to the little pencil up here, and it takes me right to the window. So now I can add in here and say, hypothetically, I want to put in a hyperlink. Right over here is the hyperlink manager. My advice to you is always use the hyperlink manager to put a hyperlink in the page. Do not copy and paste the hyperlink, because it will not, it may not work. If ever we see problems with hyperlink, with email pages, it's somebody's cut and pasted in a hyperlink. So if I came over here and I click this little hyperlink button, it's going to start off right in the top. And I can put in a URL wherever I want to in here, and I can put the text in. So let's say I'm going to open up here and say Cornell University. Right up here is the hyperlink. I'll copy that. Whoops, where am I here? Where did my email go? I got to find it for a second. Bear with me. Mid-America. Whoops. Well, that's bad. Let me go back to my email. This would be the perfect thing, is I just made a little mistake, right? This is actually good to show you that if I go back here, oh, I'm in the wrong one. I meant to be in, even I get confused. Here it is, the Hudson. So here was my page. If I went back into here again, I'm going to go back up in here. I'm going to come down into here. I'm going to hit this little hyperlink manager. I'm going to cut and paste in the Cornell. I can put whatever text I want. This little tooltip section right here, I can put in, that's where if you put the cursor above it, it floats. Click to go to Cornell site. And I can hit OK. And it puts in a little link right there. Additionally, if you wanted to put in an email link, hyperlink, and we can come over here. And all we do is we put in wrb1@cornell.edu, mail run Babuka, tooltip mail run Babuka. And if I hit OK, that will actually launch your email tool and send an email to me. So now this is kind of looking where I want it to look like. I hit save again. How does that look as a preview? I like the way that looks. I hit save and load content. Does that look simple enough for right now? So now I've got whatever I want in here. And now I want to add in, say I want to add in another content block. All I have to do is come over here and hit this little button that says create new content. Oops, I'm sorry, I drag it over. It creates a little role, and I can say, this is where I will add content. I save it. it goes to the preview, and it loads. And now I have another content block. So I originally had this content block and this button, right? So now what I can do is I can come over here, and let's say we want to add a picture. Edit content, opens up the little window, click the pencil. We never want to copy and paste images into our email. We always want to use this little button right here. This is called the image manager. If we collect this, what this does is this gives us the ability to take images that we want to use and to store them into iModules and then add them to our site. So I've already stored 2 images here, but for this example shake, I'm going to go out and find a new image and I'm going to store it in this picture. So I come over here to this upload button, and I can come right here and I say add. Oops, I don't say add, I say select. And now what it will do is it will take me to my pictures as a default, and I can find a picture that I want. I select it and I say open, and there's the name of my picture, and I'm going to add it or upload it. Next thing, there's my picture. If I click on my picture, I can look at the properties. Now this tells you the width and the height is 768 and the width is 1024. I can tell you right off the bat that the emails are, I believe, 615. So what I can do is if I want to insert this image, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to say, I'm going to change this number to 650. Notice how that changes because it keeps the aspect ratios in the same. And I'm going to insert that right into my picture. So I have my text up here and I have my picture. This is the sunrise in Haleakala in Maui. If you ever have a chance to go to Maui and go see the sunrise in Haleakala, it's beautiful. So now I've seen my picture and I can save it. This is again the preview. It does this every time. If we like the way it looks, we hit save and load content, and there you go. So it put the picture. Now the interesting thing you'll notice here is that it's made this slightly bigger. Notice up here it said 600. That's the width of the email. So I misquoted. When I said 650, it's actually 600. But what I can do is I can always go back if I want to play with this a little bit, is I open up this block. Again, it will open up my window. I go to preview. And if I go down to the corner of this picture and I grab this, as I start to shrink it, notice that number on the bottom, 615, 611, 609, 600. It's now shrunk the picture. I hit save version. That's my new preview. I load the content. Now see everything lines up a little bit, left and right. So that's how you, there's 2 different ways you can adjust your picture. You can grab and shrink it, or you can go back and do the properties and set it to what you want to be. So sometimes it might be good to note that the pictures are 600 wide. If you have to do a lot of editing of pictures, I probably would do it outside of iModules and then just import it in. So now I come over this section. I've decided I'm not doing anything where there's a registration. It's gone. And this little block came from my module. And I'll have to think about how to get rid of that. That's actually, every once in a while, iModules does something you don't like. And that was something I don't like. But I will send a note out to Claire and we'll show you how to get rid of that. But I want to keep moving along for this example. So now what I've done is I've gotten this email the way I want it to look. Oh, I want to actually talk down here. This is your footer section. You can edit these footers. It looks the exact same way. The window pops up. I hit that pencil. And say if I wanted to edit this and I wanted to change this little button, I'm going to say Cornell Club of Mid-Hudson. And I can put an address in here. And I can say New York, New York, whatever I want to say in here. These are preloaded. If I click on the hyperlink manager, so these are social medias. This is Cornell Twitter, Cornell Alumni Affairs and Development Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or that's Instagram, and that's, which one is this? This one, Instagram? Oh, this is LinkedIn. If you click on the hyperlink up here, it will tell you what they are. They come preloaded. So if you had your own Twitter site, your own Facebook, if you came up with the hyperlink manager, you could change those, all right? I'm gonna leave those alone for now. So say I'm making my own footer, and just for giggle's sake, I wanna put a picture in here too. I can come over here and grab Augusta, and I can say the properties, and I can say that's 165, because I happen to know it's 165, and I can insert. And there goes a little picture of Augusta National. So if you have a logo or something, you can put it in this space. Now I'm going to save this. That looks okay to me. Save load content. And now there's my footer on the bottom. So I've now been playing around. I've got an email the way I like it to play with it. And it looks good. The next thing you need to do is save it. And you want to send a preview. In order to send an email, you must preview it. And basically, this gives you an opportunity to send yourself what the email is going to look like. And if you put addresses up here, I can send previews to other folks. And I could put directions in here saying, Lee, what do you think of this? Please reply by Friday. And then I hit the send preview button. You must do this before you can send out another email. Now, it doesn't require you to do anything with it, but it does require you to send a preview. And in a second, I'm going to open up my email over here and kind of wait a minute. So now notice as we've checked this one, checked this one, checked this one. And it may take a couple minutes for your preview to show up. The great thing is that I hit a preview, I can always go back up to build content based on the comments that somebody's given me and change it again. Oh. Here you go, I'm gonna slide my email over. Notice I've gotten something that says preview. I click on this. Here's my email. This shows a picture of the directions. Lee, what do you think of this? Please reply by Friday. And she would see exactly what the email will look like. There's our picture of Haleakala. There's our new footer. Here is that the footer that we provide that's got the opt-out button. If you use the email only, all you would see would be that line, this line right here, this bottom one, and this would disappear. So that's your decision whether you want to use that or not. So now I've decided, I get a confirmation back from Lee, and Lee says, yep, it looks good. Now what I can do is I can choose who. Oh, probably what happened is because I went back and opened it, it wants me to send another preview. Notice how that went back to check. I'm gonna hit a preview again, and now the preview condition is met. Now if we go through choose recipients. Now, this is where we decide who we want to send it to. We have two different organizations that use this. We have classes and we have clubs. So, for one example, I'm going to show how a club would do it. And then for the next example, I'm going to show how a class does it because you have different populations. So bear with me for a second. What we're going to do is we're going to say, go up to this piece right here. This is called the data viewer. This allows you to create a query of who the email is going to go to. Once you create a query, it will be saved forever and you can reuse it. So I'm going to walk through how we create a new query. We're going to say create a new query. If you had already created one, you could use a saved query. Right over here, I'm going to hit the next button. And that is going to bring up a bunch of fields. These are database fields in iModules. For clubs, there's only two things you need to remember. One is, if we scroll down here, is I'm going to keep going down, and I've just got to find it. It takes a second. One is a primary constituent type, and the other one is where is it here? Club name. And that is criteria. Now, between you and me, you don't necessarily have to have the club name, but I'm always going to teach people to use it because I think it's a good practice. So basically what I've said is I need to use these two criteria. I'm going to add those fields, and they're going to show up here. So what I always want to do is I always want to make sure 100% I'm sending it to the right club. Even though I'm only in my own space and I can only send it to people in my own club, I'm always going to come down here and I'm going to pick my club. Now, we were in the Cornell Club of Mid-Hudson. Mid-Hudson should be in here someplace. Sometimes you got to kind of scroll through to find it right there. The next thing you want to do is you want to pick the population who's going to go to inside of your club. Notice that we have alumni. These are constituent types, and everybody has one constituent type. You are an alumni non-degreed, which means basically you were matriculated into a college but did not graduate. You may have transferred, you may have withdrawn short term. You can send to faculty, friends, non-alumni spouse of alumni, parents, or staff. These are anybody who live in your club area. I can select alumni and alumni non-degreed. I can select just alumni. I can send an email to students in your area. Parents is a tricky one. I would avoid parents for right now because everybody thinks, oh, I'm going to send it to parents of active students. Right now, these are all parents, 25 years worth of history of parents that would be in your club. So I would avoid that one for right now. We're trying to come up with a technology or with a solution to allow you to send to just the parents of active students. But for right now, we're not quite there yet. So let's say on this one, I just want to send to alumni of our club. If I click this apply query button, it will come up and it'll kind of give me a little list. There's 1,542 members of that list. That's kind of a ballpark. Most clubs are about that size. Some are smaller, some are bigger. I can save this query with a name, Ron's alumni. I could just call it alumni, give it a name, alumni in my club. I can hit next. Now you notice earlier that was 1,542. Notice how it's 929 now, right? That number shrank a little bit. That's because the first number is the total number of people who meet that criteria in the club. This is now the number who we can actually mail. So that number often drops, and that's not an unusual number of drops. If I don't like it, I can reset it, or if I hit edit, it will take me back to that criteria. So now, the last thing you can do is people often ask, hey Ron, I want to send out this to the people in my club, but I also have somebody who's not in the Cornell community. How do I add them in? You can come right over here to custom list and you can hit configure. That pops up as a little window like this. You can create a list. The list name is mayor. And I can add in mayor of Ithaca at gmail.com. I can save that list, and then I can slide over here, and I can select that list. And it should use that list, include list. Now it's going to use the mayor list and one person in it. I wouldn't use this a lot, and please try as much as possible to use the data viewer. This should be the exception. But I did want to let you know is that you can invite people outside of the Cornell community by using this custom list. Now that we've done this, we can hit save and continue. Again, we can hit done at any point once we're done if we want to just stop where we are. If we hit save and continue, it will allow me to schedule something immediately or in the future. If you want to do a mailing on Saturday, as opposed to right now, if you hit in the future, it will pick a date and time. There are great strategies about when you send out emails. Weekends are a wonderful time to send out an email. People tend to open them more on a weekend. If I want to send out something immediately, right now I hit immediately and I hit this save button. I'm not going to do it because I would actually be sending out an email to 900 people, which I don't want to do. But if I hit immediately, I hit save and continue, it's going to come up with another screen that says, you're going to send out an email to 900 people. Do you want to move forward? I hit yes, and then the email is set to go. All right. So right now I'm going to cancel this, and I'm going to go back. This is always the email. So when I mentioned if you want to stop where you are, you can always come back to the email you had. It will always be here. If I click on that button, it'll take me right back to where I left off. If I hit cancel. Now, if we had hit the immediate button, it would have swung right down in here. It would take a second. It would leave here and it would go down here. And it will be sitting in release status until either it is mailed immediately or if we have a scheduled date in which it's going to be emailed. All right. If you do have an email that goes down to here, like you say, I'm going to schedule it to go on Saturday, but it is now Friday and you decided you didn't want to eat the email, a little cog will be right next to it here. You can open that cog and you can say, there'll be a message that says, it's very apparent, it's do not send, or it's delete. I forget which one it is. And it will move it back up to the saved draft section. So if all of a sudden you decide last second you want to send it, you come down, you hit the cog, and it will move it back up here. When the email has been sent, it will move down to this section. Now, the great thing, and I'm actually going to open up another section, and this is what it would look like. These emails are sent to be released, and if you moved it back to draft, that was the feature I was going to say. If you move it back to draft, it'll go from here up to here, and it will not be sent. You can also delete an email. If you just want to get rid of it, you can delete the email. So the nice thing with an email is, remember when I was talking about how we had an email and we built that footer? Once you get an email that you really like the look and feel of it, it's got a footer section, it's got a header you like, you can always reuse that email. So you can send an email, you build it, release it, send it, and then all you've got to do is reuse it. It'll move back up to this top section. You can open it, and then all you have to do is change any words you don't want. You can change a picture. You can change date and times. And then you just go back through the process of who are you sending it to, and then releasing it. Does that make sense? One piece of advice is if you decide to reuse an email is I would always go back to that core email. If you use an email and then reuse it and it has a different name, and then you reuse that second version, and then you reuse it as a third version, it kind of can sometimes, it's kind of like making a copy of a copy of a copy. It can get a little squirrely at times. So often what people do is they build an email and then they just continuously use that email over and over and over again until they're comfortable with things. Once an email has been sent out, you can get some information on the email itself. You can look at the recipient list. If I click that button, two things will happen. It will either pop up with a bunch of numbers like this if we've given it numbers. You normally wouldn't see things like this. I'm trying to find one. What you would normally see is these emails I'm using are all from our administrative. I'm going to see if I can pick one more one out here. Mid-Hudson, or where's it? Mid-America. Give me a second to find Mid-America. Here's Mid-America. If we look at one of their emails, notice over here, the email was sent on this date to 687 recipients. If I click on the recipient button, it doesn't really tell me much because we use the query tool. So I can't really tell you that much, but you can see who were the people I sent it to. I sent this to all people in Mid-America who were either alumni, alumni non-degreed, non-alumni, spouse of alumni, parents, and students. That's who they chose to send the email to. Another thing we can do down to is we can also see is the exception report. That will tell us I intended to send, there were 641 emails. That was that first nut when we created the query. And it was only able to send out 687 of them. Because what it does is it goes through and says, hey, some people have opted out. Some people, it tells you right here how we went from this number to this number. We had 102 emails were flagged as invalid. 88 of the people that selected were deceased. Good note, just so you guys are comfortable with knowing that. We will not send an email to anybody that we have flagged as deceased. Of these 641, we didn't have an email address for 700 of them. So this will tell you how this number went from this number to that number. Also, if you click the exception report, this will tell you, we open up a spreadsheet of who didn't get it and why. This particular person, William Dobbs, this is his email address. He's opted out of getting emails from the Cornell Club of Mid-America. Same with this person. These people's email addresses are all empty. Sometimes it may be marked as spam. We cannot control, once iModules sends the email out, every email provider that receives email handles spam a slightly different way. So sometimes what will happen is you'll send an email out and you'll say, somebody will contact you say, I didn't get that email. So that's where you can come over to email, open up this exception report, see if they're there. You can also open up a bounce report. And this is going to take a second. And this will tell you these emails were rejected by the email provider themselves. We can't control anything to do with this. And the only thing you could contact the person and say, we sent an email, this is the email address we had for you, and it was deferred by your email provider. All right. Last thing I wanted to show you about reporting is if we came over to here, there's a cute little thing here called beta email reporting. If you were to click on that, this is beta, so iModules hasn't released this to production yet, but they're kind of, if you want to play with it. If you open up, you find your email, you can come over here and you can click on it, and it will show you how many people opened the emails. And if I click on this little button here, it will tell me these are all actually people who actually clicked on it. Oh yeah, they actually opened it. And I can go back and you can kind of play with these. Here's the number of people. These were all bounced. Again, this product, and how can tell, notice one thing, it says it delivered 0 and it opened 195. It's still in beta. They're still working on getting the bugs out of it. But it's a nice little visual way of telling who actually clicked on it and how did they click on getting the email. And where did they go when they clicked. Right now, if you had about a 30% open rate from your emails, that's actually pretty good. So if you ever went and did a report and you saw that, oh my goodness, I sent out 1,000 email and only 300 people opened it, That's fairly good for industry standards. Clubs tend to be a little slightly higher number. For Cornell, our AA&D numbers is we get about 20% people open our emails. So clubs and classes actually do better. Now, one thing I didn't talk about, and I apologize for stepping over it, is for classes. Do we have anybody who is with classes on the list right now? Claire, do you know?
Yes, we have a few.
Okay. Notice that when I created that email, and I'm going to go back to, hopefully I can find my email, my testing. And I'm going to go back to my choose recipients. And I'm going to cancel this guy out. I'm going to go back into resets my population. If I hit configure, and I want to create a new query. Classes are slightly different because classes, if I tell you you're in a class of 1977, what you need to do is, it's interesting is that the classes are all clipped together in decades. So the class of 1977 is in the same pile of alumni with the class of 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78. So what you got to do is, remember before when we clicked the folks we wanted to bring up, we brought up the, we got to find it here. Primary constituent type, that's still required. But what you're going to look for is class year. And I've got to find it here. As you can tell, I don't do this all the time. But there should be a field for class year. And it's in here someplace. And scroll around and I gotta find it here. Dun, 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 don't buy me. Degree year. Degree year. It's in here someplace. Well, I'll send out a note to where it is. It's in here. And actually, if I were to go to the documentation I provide, in the documentation, we describe the criteria that classes want to use and clubs want to use, so you don't actually have to remember. It's in here. I think it's, where is it? Preferred class year? It might be the preferred class year field. There it is. That's the field. So that's how you send out the email to the folks in your class. So that one is slightly different. You don't have the class, the club name, you have the preferred class year. All right. That's the only difference for classes over clubs. All right. And what else do I have to talk about today? So that's basically sending an email. It's something you can, the first thing I would actually, my first suggestion I would do is the first time you send an email is build an email and just send it to yourself. And what you would do is if you want to send an email to yourself is primarily, I'm gonna show you how you build an email to yourself. This will take 2 seconds. Email home. And I'm going to build another email. I'm going to go through this really quick so you can see how quick it works. Description. This is going to come from Ron. I'm going to use everything defaulted here because this is just going to be a test. I'm going to hit save and continue. I'm going to go back up top. I'm going to do my layout, which sometimes it takes a second. All right, and this is something you can do for fun sakes. Now, this will involve you working with your engagement officer. Now, this is the email. I'm not going to change it. I'm going to send a preview to myself. You would, of course, change the email. I'm going to send a preview. And right here is choose recipients. This is the last thing I kind of talk about is right in here is, it's called upload constituent ID. Now, a constituent ID is like a social security number. It's Cornell's identifier for you. And this is where you'd have to work with your engagement officer. They can provide you your constituent ID. And what you need to do is I'm going to click on I have one stored here. I'm going to show you guys this. Documents, and there is a bear with me a second. You're going to create a CSV file. Excel stores things as a CSV file. If I open this up, you'll see right here, that's my constituent ID. That is a unique identifier to Cornell. You could work with your engagement officer to find out what yours is. Lee has one, everybody has one. And so say if you had like 10 people on your board that you wanted to just continuously send emails to those people. Lee, what is your constituent ID?
25198050.
So you could get, what was it again? 25?
2519850.
And you could get a list of all the people on your board from your engagement officer.
Don't send it to the top guy. Not you.
All right. You would save that. Save. Save. Yes. Yes. So what I could do here is upload a constituent file. If I hit this one, browse, and I came back to find that Ron guy that I modified, and I selected that, notice it's going to send it to 2 people. So this is a great way for you to practice. Get the from your engagement officer, get your constituent ID, get perhaps the people in the club that you may also want to send it to as a test. If I hit next, now I'm going to send it to 2 people. The reason it only says 1 there is I'm the only member of the Mid-Hudson Alumni Association. Lee is not. But you could now send this email, just follow the process, and send it to your board members. And you could try that way to send it to a small community. That way your first email doesn't have to be to 1,000 people or to the entire group.
Ron, it would also work to attach your email address in an Excel file, correct?
We try to avoid doing that. You can do that. The method I have of having the employee IDs doesn't create a duplicate ID.
Got it.
A member record. You know, you could easily do this custom list that we showed, but we like to reserve that for members of the non-Cornell community. So this is an option of doing it. You know, I would practice and do this a couple times and get comfortable with it before you send it out to a large group of folks. And basically, that's it for emails. You know, we went through a lot of stuff fairly quickly. It's a little bit of playing on your part, getting comfortable with it. Again, you can contact your engagement officer. On the support page, there was a way you can get in contact with me. I'd prefer you to go through your engagement officer first. They often know just about as much as I know. I know Claire knows everything about iModules.
Yeah, so I know that we just have about a minute left, so if you have to sign off, we completely understand. But if you have any questions, you're welcome to stick around for a couple minutes and ask them now. You can either unmute yourself and ask, or type it in the chat box, and we'll do that. Afterwards, I'll be sending out a survey to ask for your feedback about this webinar, and you can also respond to that email and ask any additional questions you have. So feel free to pipe up with questions, and if not, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right, any takers? Yes. Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. And just feel free to reach out to us if you have any additional questions.
Thank you, Claire. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.